Hello, and welcome back to the channel. So it's been a while since I've talked about Sailor Moon on this channel because, well, Bleach kinda took over for a while there, and I have had a lot of fun talking about that series. But, for as much as I love Bleach, I also really love Sailor Moon and have been wanting to do another video on it. So I figured, what better way to start talking about Sailor Moon again than to talk about Sailor Moon Cosmos, the final installment of the franchise. Now I know that this movie came out months ago, so I'm kinda late to the party here, but hey, better late than never, right? And so now, without further ado, let's start talking about Sailor Moon Cosmos. Alright, so first off, I would just like to briefly talk about the music for Cosmos. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this particular topic because I am not very good at analyzing music, but I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the score for this movie. I'd say that some of my favorite tracks were Silver Moon Crystal Power and Makeup, Usagi's Love, Galaxia's Theme, and Clashing Feelings. And there were others that I really liked, but, well, y'all aren't here to listen to me list stuff. But anyways, outside of the score, I also really enjoyed the songs. Now, most of the songs within the movie itself are updated versions of tracks from the 90s anime, but even so, I'd say that these renditions were pretty good. I wouldn't say that I love these versions more than the originals, but I will definitely be listening to them as well as the originals from now on. Besides those, there are two original tracks. The Happy Marriage song, which is sung by the Japanese voice cast, and the movie's theme song, Suki no Hana, sung by Deoko. I don't have anything to say about the Happy Marriage song, other than that it made the wedding scene even more emotional than it already was. And as for Suki no Hana, I absolutely love this song. I really liked Moon Color Chanon from Eternal, but I honestly like this song more. I mean, both songs are awesome, it's just that I connected with Suki no Hana more. But that's about all I've got to say about the music. The animation for Cosmos was pretty good overall. I didn't notice any major issues in that department. Now granted, I wasn't really looking for errors here like I did for the Crystal video, but even so, if there had been something really wonky with the animation, I likely would have noticed it, and I didn't. So yeah, no serious complaints about the animation here. Instead, I'd like to talk a bit about other aspects of the animation, so as I did in the Crystal video, I will be talking about the transformation sequences for a little bit here. So I thought that the transformation scenes looked pretty good for the most part, though you can definitely tell that more effort was put into certain ones in comparison to others. For example, the inner and outer Senshi did not get new ones, but I let that go though, since, well, it made sense to me why they didn't. On the other hand, the Starlight's transformations were fine, I guess. I mean, they weren't anything special, but I liked the concept and felt that it worked. However, you can definitely tell that they put the most effort into Sailor Moon and Chibi Moon's transformation sequences. Sailor Moon herself gets two, and I liked both. Though I might be a bit more biased towards the second one, mainly because it basically combined three from the 90s anime, and I thought that was cool. Chibiusa's was really lovely with the hearts and everything like that. I also love that she got a full transformation scene like Sailor Moon does, and in a way it felt like a sort of passing of the torch to me. But I've rambled on about this stuff for long enough, so to sum it up, I had no serious issues with the animation overall and enjoyed the transformation scenes, even if a couple of them did come across as a bit lazy. Pacing-wise, Cosmos was basically on par with the first three seasons of Crystal, Eternal, and, well, the manga itself. I will say, though, that I did notice just how fast the pacing of Part 1 in particular was. It definitely felt like they were just speeding through the first half of the arc, which, again, is not too far off from how the manga itself did things, so it didn't bug me too much. Admittedly, though, I did find myself wishing that Part 1 had taken the opportunity to add in a couple extra scenes here and there, just so we could get more scenes of Usagi and the others before things really started going to hell, and it likely would have also helped with the pacing issue. But in the end, I'm not too bothered that that didn't happen, since the faster pace did help sell the sense of urgency more. But moving on, Part 2 was more of the same pacing-wise. Somehow, though, and maybe I was imagining it, but Part 2 didn't feel as breakneck. Like, I don't know. Something about Part 2 felt a bit slower paced to me, and that could be because of the new scenes that were added, though those weren't long enough to affect the pacing that much. Honestly, I have no idea. As usual, Cosmos is a very loyal adaptation of the manga, with Part 1 being the most loyal, following the story beat for beat, but also making a few cuts that are so minor that I didn't even notice until I thumbed through the manga. And to be honest, I don't even feel the need to go through any of them because they were just that inconsequential. Part 2, however, is where things get a bit more interesting, with it making a few new additions. The first one I'll mention is that Galaxia's backstory gets expanded on a little bit. And by that, I mean that we see brief glimpses of what her life was like on her planet before her powers awoke. From these glimpses, it's clear that she had a rough life before she became a Sailor Senshi, which could have worked to make her an even more interesting and maybe even tragic character. But even with these new scenes, we still don't get the whole story with Galaxia, and probably never will. Now, this doesn't bother me too much, as I'm fine with the character as she is, but I do kind of wish that Galaxia's story could have been expanded on a tiny bit more. The next change that the movie makes is the manner in which the Starlights die. In the manga, the three of them were unconscious when their stellar crystals were taken, and I have to say that, for as much as I love the manga, I have never liked this particular writing decision. While I'm not the hugest fans of the Starlights, I've always felt that they deserved a better send-off than what they got, especially since that ends up being the last time we ever see them in the story. But getting back on track, while watching Part 2, I was pleasantly surprised to see that, instead of dying while unconscious, the Starlights go out trying to protect Kakyu and Sailor Moon, sacrificing themselves. I definitely find this to be a more fitting emotional ending for the characters, and it's definitely a change I appreciated. A part of me does wish, though, that an extra scene could have been added of them and Kakyu returning to their planet or something along those lines, but oh well. A final addition that I loved was the slightly expanded ending. See, originally, after Guardian Cosmos sends Usagi and friends back to Earth, it basically immediately jumps ahead to Usagi and Mamoru's wedding a few years later. Now, while I've never minded this too much, I have always wished that just a little bit more time could have been spent on the immediate aftermath. And by that I mean seeing them all return home, with Usagi reuniting with Luna, Mina with Artemis, maybe a short scene of them at school, or even a brief romantic moment with Usagi and Mamoru, and then it jumps ahead to the wedding. So I was once again pleasantly surprised when Part 2's ending kinda did this. After Guardian Cosmos sends them back, instead of the time jump, we see the Senshi and Mamoru flying through space back to Earth, and the final scene is Usagi returning home, briefly interacting with Shingo before being greeted by her parents and Luna, who can talk again. This scene was such a small addition, but I loved it. While you don't get to see more of the Senshi or Mamoru with Usagi, seeing that everything was back to normal was nice, and it did make me a bit emotional, not gonna lie. But long story short, Cosmos is very loyal to its source material, while also making a couple nice additions that I enjoyed. But I've done enough rambling now, so what are my overall thoughts on Sailor Moon Cosmos? Well, while I didn't think it was amazing or anything like that, I did enjoy it a lot and found it to be a fitting ending for the Crystal era of Sailor Moon. As an adaptation, it did justice to the original manga, though as usual, I find myself wishing that it could have taken the opportunity to do more than it did, if that makes any sense. Now, I don't normally do scores, but if I was to give Sailor Moon Cosmos a score, I'd probably give it a 3 or 4 out of 5. And with that, I'm done talking about Sailor Moon Cosmos, so I will now turn the conversation over to you all. What did you guys think of Sailor Moon Cosmos? Did you enjoy it, or did you feel like it fell short in some areas? Feel free to go in the comments below and let me know. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, that's great. But if not, thanks for listening to my nonsense anyways. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll hopefully see you next time. Goodbye.